our panel, that we are going to try to answer a very tough question: academia or industry, industry or academia. And we are lucky today because we have together with us, virtually together, but still together, a group of very well known in their field people that have also followed very interesting and very different career paths. So they will try to answer for us which path or which way of thinking maybe fit each one of us better. And I will not delay anymore. I will go right ahead and let the people introduce themselves. And I will start from our very far guest, Altis Polizotis, who is joining us from California. Hello, Alki.
Hi, thanks for the invite. Hi, everybody. So I'm Altis, dialing in from California. Let's see. I've been at Databricks since a couple of months. I'm working in the ML platform team of Databricks. Before that, I was at Google for several years, working on a bunch of data management projects, from cataloging data sets to data management for machine learning. And even before that, in a previous lifetime, I was a professor at UC Santa Cruz. Again, working on data management, database systems, on topics ranging from semi-structured data to physical design tuning.
Many interesting lives you have already lived, Altis. We're going to find out more in a while. And I'm going to Germany, Irini.
Hi, Georgia. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm Irini. I'm also brand new at the Free University in Berlin. I joined the Free University in March with a professorship on AI. And we are working on adaptive learning, responsible AI, and generative AI. Before that, I was an associate professor at the Leibniz University in Hanover, so again in Germany. And before that, I was a postdoc at LMU in Munich, so again in Germany. But I came in Germany from Greece, from the University of Piraeus, where I got my PhD. And I spent 1 year in the industry. So I was a data mining expert at OTE long time ago.
That is great. And let's go now to Crete, Vasily.
Hi, I'm Vasily Sefemiou. I am in Heraklion, Crete. So my postdoc at Fourth Institute of Computer Science and a visiting instructor at the University of Crete, where I'm teaching advanced database topics, information systems, and knowledge representation and reasoning. Before that, I was a postdoc at IBM Research in Almaden in California. And my PhD was on entity resolution in the web of data, and it was here in Crete. And I'm actually working on some extension on this work that considers responsible AI topics like Irini mentioned just before.
That is great. And now we are back to Athens, and Anna.
Hello, Julie. Hello, everybody. Thanks for the invitation. So I will start from the beginning. I am a graduate of the Department of Informatics in Athens, and I also have an MSc there in data networks and telecommunications. I started working as a software engineer. Then I proceeded to create my own e-commerce company. Had that for about 10 years. And when I decided to move on, I went to my first company where they hired me as a project manager for a small team. But after 4 months, they gave me the whole software department. So I am directing the software department of Enos, automation software. We provide automate production solutions for machine vision and robotics. So beginning of 2021, also the Grenzebach Group created a new division in Athens for a new software team. And I'm also the head of this team as well. So this is in Enos location. I hope I can help you decide today which career path to pursue. And I think I'm here to represent the industry.
It's going to be a tough race today with all these interesting career paths we have heard so far. Nasus, our own Nasus.
Hi, everybody. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I've had also, and I'm still having experience of both industry and academia, even at the same time. So I'm currently a principal researcher at Athena Research Center with Yuli just at a different institute. So I have been working for many years now on speech technologies, understanding behaviors, emotions, and in general understanding the state that people are in based on speech and other signals, probably facial expressions or body language. And I have done that, and I'm still doing that both from the position of the researcher at the institute and also as the Chief Technology Officer now of Behavioral Signals. It's a startup for 5 years now in Los Angeles, exactly focusing on bringing this type of technologies to market, basically. With just currently having focusing on understanding how people are feeling and customers are feeling at call centers primarily. So I did my PhD in Athens and went on to do postdoctoral studies at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. And this was where I first got in touch with essentially this domain of behavioral signal processing. And I have been working in that since then, basically. Happy to discuss more about these various aspects of industry and academia. It's a very interesting and a very interesting subject, I think.
Okay, thank you all. So, so how are we going to do this in this panel? So I have some questions that I will have the privilege to ask as a moderator. But in the meantime, please raise your hand because we are going to open the discussion to among all of us. You can just start raising your hand as soon as you have a question, and I will give the floor to all of you, time permitted, of course. So let me start with the first question to warm up a little bit the discussion. And the question is actually the very first question that comes to mind for a person that has this dilemma. So essentially, what is the day in working in industry, or what is it like working in a big research institution or in academia? So I'm going to ask this question to each one of you, and I'm going to start with Irini. So how is it working in academia? What is your day there, let's say?
A lot of meetings, which I think it's the same also in industry nowadays, right? So back to your question. So it depends if it's in the semester. So then it's really teaching, a big part of my schedule. So a professor in Germany has a teaching load of 9 working hours. So it's a lot around teaching, preparing, delivering, interacting with the students, and so on and so forth. And beyond that, I could label maybe this research work, but it's not really deep research. I would say it's talking to my students, writing some paper, helping them, mentoring them. So this is another part. A third part is related to funding and project management. So as you know, in academia, we don't have so many positions funded by the university, so we have to acquire these positions through third-party funding. So this takes quite a lot of effort, and not only the effort to acquire the funding, but also then to, for example, to deliver deliverables, project meetings, presentations, and so on. So this is quite a lot. Also, then some administrative tasks, or quite a lot of administrative tasks, from faculty meetings to different committees, for whatever. So for many different things. And finally, is the service to the community, so reviewing, which could be also seen as part of the research because you get to know new ideas also, right? So I think this is helpful in that direction also. So it's quite a full day, I would say, and a full day with many different tasks.
I will go now to Anna, to the other part of the possibilities.
Yes, meeting it is, yes, we have a lot of meetings. So the day starts with meeting the software team, then the quality assurance team. Since I am responsible for both of them, so we go over the day, what will happen. Of course, each day is not the same. So before the meetings, actually, I do a bit of resource allocation to plan ahead when it's needed, to manage the release process. I need to see what each plant needs. I mean, car plants, the manufacturers, what they need. Other times I need to discuss things with the customers. I need to go over their requests. We need to coordinate with the engineering team to see if they need something, to go over the requirements that they have. I have a lot of interviews. We're in the middle of a lot of interviews. I try to acquire people for the team. Also, we design. We coordinate the design, the development, the implementation of the applications. So I have a lot of discussions and meetings on how to proceed. It's really a lot of presentations as well, stakeholder meetings to show your work, to convince other people of what it is that you're doing. The release management is another big part of my day. And of course, mentoring, team building, and whatever has to do with the teams.
Thank you, Anna. What about you, Nasus? How is your life as a researcher?
So I wake up around 6:30. I go just do for some exercise, some walking, running. I want to start swimming as well. So that takes approximately 1 hour. Come back, have breakfast with my children before they go to school. And then I have 2 hours basically, just which I'm using basically primarily to write up things. So it would be there, proposals, some reviewing and writing the reviews and things like that. So this is probably the most focused and creative time of the day. After that, I have the Scrum meeting with the team at the company. So this is this mostly this lasts for like 30 minutes or so. It's so it's 10:30. Then it could be like a one-on-one meeting probably with somebody from the team, either at the company or at the university, at the institute. And then there's another Scrum meeting with the team at the institute, which I'm participating in. And so it's 11:30. And after that, depending on the day now, and I think more or less like the things that have been mentioned so far, I mean, are things that basically occupy like most of the time, like interviews for hiring, discussions and more focused meetings on specific projects that we are running. But yeah, I think most of the time is related now to like things that we that have to do with just developing the product at the company, because it's a startup company. We have a lot of discussions about designs and implementation regarding how we will focus, where we will focus the product and what kind of alterations we may need to just implement, things like that. And then yeah, I think more or less the rest of the things is like yeah, there is also a part of my part of the things that I'm doing at the institute as well is teaching. So there is some preparation for the class as well, typically, and of course the meeting with students, the lectures. So that is also another part of the week, I would say. Yeah, that is something that I would just like to add. There is a part that I think is important as well in the daily routine, that needs to be kept independent of the meetings or whatever, which is like, you know, some exercising, some doing some other kinds of stuff. It's not very easy, but yeah, it's something that I'm trying to keep on a daily basis.
Okay, Nasus, I already feel guilty about the exercising thing, so I will try to move on very quickly and go to Altis for telling us a little bit more about Databricks.
The daily routine of Databricks. Yep. I joined Databricks as a technical lead. The reason I mention that is because the schedule between technical leads and people that have managerial positions changes a lot. So the previous panelists talked about a lot of meetings. This is definitely the case for somebody who manages people. There are meetings, you know, around team building, mentoring people, as Anna said. And this was definitely my daily routine at Google, where I had a position like that. But at Databricks, I joined as a technical lead because I wanted to get away from the meetings. So now I have far fewer meetings. I have a lot of time that I can devote to technical work. The meetings do increase in our planning cycle. So we're on a quarterly planning cycle. So at the end of every quarter, we go into planning mode. That's the time where the different tech leads from different teams meet together to coordinate the high-level goals across the company. It's a time of many meetings, but then it winds down again and we go back to more technical work, fewer meetings. We do have the not daily Scrum meetings, but you know, in my team, at least every 2 days, we have a Scrum meeting to understand progress that we make across the tasks that we allocated. And we sort of have a rhythm of working on these tasks that is bi-weekly. So we sort of allocate work for 2 weeks. We do this work, then we come back at the end of the 2 weeks. We do a retrospective on what we managed to achieve and what lessons we learned, and we use that to plan the next 2 weeks. So it's a little bit more focused on the technical aspect of the work. Apart from that, there are a lot of meetings with customers as well. You know, being a smaller company, Databricks needs to understand well what its customers needs to build the products that can be successful. But that's also, I guess, a rewarding part of the experience, getting to know how people, what are the data management needs of customers out there. Yeah.
That is great. Thank you, Vasily.
Yeah, Altis just destroyed my punchline. I was about to say that we all have meetings and we cannot avoid that, but it seems that he has found a way. So yes, most of the time we have a lot of meetings. That's both at Forth and at IBM Research, but different kind of meetings. So at Forth we mostly meet with students or with project partners maybe. And at IBM Research, we had meetings with internal group meetings for planning purposes, or sometimes with internal clients, since it was a research department. So yeah, that's something in common. Also, the coffee is something in common. We need, or I need a lot of coffee for handling that. So many meetings as context switch, which is also something different, switching subjects, working in one project, and then in 5 minutes you have to change your mindset to a completely, sometimes different problem. What is different maybe in Forth is that a lot of time is devoted in seeking funding, which I didn't have to worry about in IBM Research. My manager had to worry about that. So a lot of time goes there. And also, since I'm also affiliated with University of Crete, also a lot of time goes to planning for the courses that will be taught in 6 months or even a year ahead. So yeah, that's another big overhead. And somewhere in the middle, we do some actual work. So yeah, no, I'm joking. All this is actually part of the work, but yeah, I mean the thinking by yourself and designing the next steps, and maybe also have some implementation.
So thank you, Vasily. Meetings, a lot of work. These are some common factors, of course. I can see them. But I would like to talk a little bit more about rewards, and especially what is the most rewarding part in what you do? What is the thing that makes you wake up in the morning and say, you know, I want to go to my office, I want to do what I'm doing? And I will start with Irini.
So it's not for every day, right? So some days indeed. So on average, I would say the most interesting or the most rewarding is really that you are exposed to many interesting ideas, right? So you work on interesting problems, on challenging problems, but somehow they keep you entertained, right? So mentally entertained. So I think the problems that we are working are really interesting and you are never bored. In terms of challenges and in terms of problems. Actually, there are more problems and challenges than we can tackle. So I really like this aspect. And it follows me also on the weekends sometimes, right? So I have these thoughts. Maybe another aspect, which maybe it's different in academia, is that usually your direct colleagues are actually much younger than you, right? So my PhD students, for example, which are my direct, let's say, my direct team, they are much younger, and there are some nice things working with young people. For example, the enthusiasm or new ideas or thinking in different ways. So this is something that I really like. Of course, there are also cons, so I'm focusing now on the reward part. And then I think we have the freedom, academic freedom, to work on any topic that we like. Of course, we have to be productive, right? So we have to produce papers or raise funding and so on. But I can choose any topic that I think, it's worthy, and I can work on that. And I think to some extent, maybe also it's people, right? So you can maybe choose, maybe more than in the industry, you can really choose your collaborators, not for everything, not for all tasks, but for some tasks, I think you have some options. And this is also kind of nice. I think this, at least these aspects.
Working with young people is actually very rewarding. I can also agree on that. And at this point, I would also like to ask Altis that probably he has a different viewpoint working in the industry.
I was muted. Okay. So for me, a big part of day-to-day happiness has to do with the people I work with. So I'm lucky that in Databricks and also my previous positions, I had a great team, people who are smart and who can challenge me, and I feel that I'm learning a lot from them. The other part that I really enjoy is the technical topics. Again, that's a big criterion of what kind of work I choose to do. Databricks in particular, being a startup company in a big in a domain with a big market, has a lot of interesting technical challenges to solve. It's really early in the product life cycle, so I definitely enjoy being able to shape a little bit the product direction of the company. But it's also what I enjoy immensely, and this was also the case at Google, is that I can work on projects where I see a direct impact of my work. At Google, this was mostly direct impact in the internal teams that were using the stuff that we're building in Databricks. This is impact on the customers of the company. So I derive a lot of joy from knowing that some solution that we built is used by some customers to solve their day-to-day data management problems.
Exactly. So Vasily, what about you? What is the most rewarding part, in your opinion, in what you're doing?
I completely agree with Irini and Altis, and I mostly agree with what Yannis Ioannidis said before, that the most rewarding part is when students have some positive feedback about what you do. So, for example, when they tell you that they learned something interesting from a course, or they enjoyed what they use some of the practices that they have learned from the course. Of course, as Irini said, working on something that you have proposed and you actually like gives you a lot of energy to work on that compared to something that someone else has told you or asked you to work on. So that's something really important. And of course, when we get positive reviews in a paper that we have worked really hard to submit, and from students or from reviewers or from the audience when we present them in a conference, which hasn't happened for a while in real life. So yeah, all these, and of course traveling when you go to present your work in a conference and meet new people or people you have known for years and you meet just in conferences or mostly in conferences. Yeah, that's another great part of our job.
That part of our job we actually have missed in the last couple of years. And initially it was a good thing, but now we really miss it. As Irini said earlier, there are not only rewards, there are also challenges. And now we want to talk a little bit more about challenges with Anna. So Anna, what is the most challenging part in your work, in your line of work?
Mm-hmm. So the most challenging, okay, I gotta say that it depends on the month. So there is a cycle and different things that we do over time. But I must admit that the most challenging part is the release process and to balance the deadlines with the problems. So we have different problems, and each time you need to react, to find the solution, and to know when to make a release, how to solve everything, and how to satisfy all different customers. The legacy code is also a problem because it has an implication on the final release. And each time we release something, we have to ensure that the software quality is the same. So our application is installed in all different plants, the same version. So if I install something for BMW, the same version goes for Audi, the same for Volkswagen, and so on and so on. So this is quite challenging to make sure that nothing breaks, because the code coverage, as anyone who has worked in software development knows, it's not possible to have it to 100%. So this is a tough part because there are different and multiple complex user requirements. We use different hardware, software, sensors, and so on and so on. So in order to ensure that everything is working properly all of the time, this is the most challenging part, I would say.
Exactly, absolutely. Naso.
Well, I first I'd like to say that I empathize a lot with Anna. I really feel what you're saying, well, I would like to add the challenge, the main challenge that I would highlight is really has to do with maybe a good word for that would be really prioritization. Really, I have the luck to work with teams of people, like very brilliant people who like daily, and because we are at early stages, even at the research side or even at the startup, there are a lot of ideas which typically people would present and would like to support and would like to pursue. And it's a continuous challenge to really be able to actually focus on the things that really matter and are aligned to like the long-term goals, because otherwise there is a limit really to the kinds of projects that we can take on and we can start and we can just want to investigate and explore. So this is something that I find difficult and difficult to do. I mean, just really picking out and selecting and saying that, okay, I'm going to work on, I'm going to focus on these, few things for a while, and just because I think that these are the ones that are going to probably be the most rewarding ones, or the ones that are going to probably end in a successful product or things like that. And let the others for a while in the background, and probably catch up with them later on. So that happens continuously. It's a continuous process, and it's easy to lose focus basically, and start doing everything after all, or at least thinking that you're doing everything and practically doing nothing.
Losing focus, another painful story actually, and especially maybe in our domain is often a pain, and we have to make sure that we don't fall in the trap. I don't have a remedy for that. If you or a recipe now, so if you have one, please let us know.
Morning exercise does not help for that necessarily.
Yeah, it's a wishful thinking, and trying not to read your email all the time, for example, something like that. So the good news is that while we are talking, people are raising their hands. So in a few minutes, I'm going to open up the discussion, but I want to ask one more, let's say, round of questions that have to do with transitions, because all of you actually didn't do just one thing, didn't stay in one place. Either that place was a geographical location or a place related to career evolution. So I will start with Altis. Altis that worked for many years as a professor, and then jumped into industry. And I have the impression, but of course he will talk about it himself, that he never looked back. So Altis.
Yeah, so the background here for me is that I was a professor at UC Santa Cruz, and at some point I wasn't looking for a transition. It happened that I connected to one of the TLs at Google's ads infrastructure team. They were looking at some problems related to large-scale query processing. They liked one of the papers that we published with my students, and they basically asked, hey, can you come and help us understand whether your techniques can work in our systems and so on. So this started the collaboration with Google, and at that point I got to observe up close the volume of data, the complexity of data, and the scale of computing that was available at Google. And for me as a professor, this was pretty impressive. And at that point, I also realized that it would be very hard for me to get access to this kind of scale, data and computing wise at the university. And also that I was enjoying immensely the work that I was doing at Google with these collaborators. So it was sort of a, for lack of a better word, organic transition between academia and the industry for me at that point. Having been at academia for 10 years at that point, I decided, okay, maybe it's time that I can give this thing a try since I'm enjoying it so much. And that's how the transition happened. There were a few challenges on the way because industry is a very different environment than academia. What Irini said earlier, I think resonated very well with me, that in academia, you have the freedom to choose to collaborate or not with certain people. In the industry, you cannot make this choice so freely. In some cases, you have to work with people just because they're in the same team. You might not enjoy working with them so much. But despite these challenges, it has been a choice that I sort of think worked well for me. So indeed, I didn't look back, but not because I didn't enjoy my time in academia, or because academia is great. It's a wonderful life. So I just want to clarify that. Yeah.
So trying to be a little bit provoking here. So thank you, Alti. Now, so you are actually combining hats. a little bit of industry, a little bit of research, or a lot of industry and a lot of research. So how is this working out? And maybe you don't have to transition. Maybe you can combine things and be even happier.
I think so. Actually, I would not necessarily. I mean, just differentiating between industry and academia probably could be old-fashioned in a few years in the future, like in the not so far future, because I think after all that Altis, for example, as he has also said, and his experience is indicative. Like there are many academics who work at the industry and are doing research on the industry, and probably they get like more significant opportunities to do better, even better research at the industry. In general, I think, of course, the key here is the particular role that I have, both at the research institute and at the company, which is more related to research. So I'm a researcher, so I see myself as a researcher. And in this way, I sort of like, I can combine the kinds of things that I'm doing both at the institute and at the company. The research institute is actually a place that I really like because it really gives me this opportunity. I would stay a bit away from more traditional academia, in the sense like a more traditional university that would involve more like other types of academic things to do. While at the Research Institute, we get the opportunity, I think, to basically work on all sides of like have both have the good sides of have the good things of both sides essentially. So I'm able to work from just starting from conceptualizing an idea, working just on the research to make it work, to see just building the proof of concept there, and then moving forward, implementing that in a more like in a production environment. After all, even selling that at the startup that I'm now, talking to customers and trying to sell that, and then also supporting probably even when needed. So all this entire cycle is so it's not necessarily separating between industry and academia or something. It's just working on this product cycle, on all this building things type of cycle, just building useful things type of cycle from the beginning to the end. So this is how I see it so far, at least, and I enjoy it really.
I like this perspective because what you're actually saying is that you can combine the best of both worlds. And this is also very nice, actually. So I will move to Vasilis, and let's talk, Vasilis, about a different type of transitioning or moving from one geographical location to another, from Greece to US to Greece to different places. So talk a little bit more about that and all the benefits of doing, of moving from one place to another.
I could also turn this question back to you, but yeah, okay, let me try first.
That's why I am the moderator.
Yes. So yeah, when I finished my PhD, I was not really sure what I wanted to do in my life. Perhaps many students can correlate with that. So I tried to keep both doors open, let's say, both the academia and industry. So that's why I applied to IBM Research. I had already done an internship there at New York. So I knew that it's okay to publish papers. It's actually encouraged. So by this process, I knew that I could also keep the academia door open and procrastinate a little bit my decision until I have a clearer mind. So after my PhD, my advisor, Vasilis Christopidis, encouraged me to try again, to try going again to the United States, because he suggested that it would be a very interesting and rewarding experience, and also very good for the CV. Now I completely agree with him. It was all really exciting to be there and work with so many great people like Ron Fagin, Fokion Altis, or Mohan. So people I knew from the database courses, but to me they were just names in papers. And then I actually met them and see how great it is to work with them. And then when my postdoc finished, I had to make another tough decision to stay there or come back. But my now wife made it easier because she could not work remotely or work outside Greece. So it was eventually it was not a very tough decision. So I came back. Before I came back, I applied for funding to HFRI, ELIDEC, and luckily it was accepted. So I had a job here, and since I could move back, that's what made the decision easier for me.
Great, and I see a lot of hands raised, so I will open up the floor. And Yorgo, go ahead, ask your question. If you are speaking, we cannot hear you. I will move to Katerina. In the meantime, hopefully, George Tamatelis will solve any problem he has with the connection. Katerina, we're all ears.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for accepting the invitation. Also, it's a very unique panel that Ms. Kutrika actually thought of. So you have all presented very busy schedules, and sometimes it can seem daunting, from the Mr. Katsamani's exercise resume to Ms. Irini. She said that she basically has a full day, and it might seem a bit daunting to us because yes, we are used to all-nighters, but when do you find this work-life balance? Do you think you have achieved that? Do you think that maybe you will achieve that once you have worked really hard, then it's something to hope for in your 40s? What are your thoughts on that and your experience?
I can give it a try. Okay, I'll go ahead. So one thing that I don't know if others in the panel have noted, but for me, work-life balance maybe surprisingly improved when I moved to industry. I found it really hard in the university to maintain boundaries. There was always an email to answer. There were always, questions from students. There was always some assignment to upload or to mark grade. So I think the flip side of industry is that, generally speaking, it's much easier to bound the workday. Basically, understand that after 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m., people have to go to their places and devote time to their families. And this is something that happens collectively across at least the two companies that I work with. So it was easy to basically disengage from work because nobody was thinking about work or sending emails. So I think that part at least has worked well for me. I will say though that it is important to maintain some work-life balance. So this is something that should not be ignored in any career path that people choose.
I can also share my view. I don't work so many hours per day. So since I have a daughter, she's 12, I have to be there for her as well. So for us women, especially when we are parents, we need to follow our children's schedule as well. So my day starts early. I start at 6, but I try to be home by 6 or 7. Okay, sometimes I'm traveling, like in 2 weeks from now, I will be in Germany for the whole week. But this is not something that happens all the time. So you have to be really organized, your day and your schedule. And I think this is the way to achieve this balance. So you set your priorities. So to me, my daughter and my work are top priority. And I schedule both. And I think you can succeed on that if you are determined.
Okay, so maybe we can move to Adonis.
Yes, hello from me. Thanks for accepting the invitation to all of you. So I have more of a logistics kind of question. I would like to ask you your opinion on postgraduate studies in general. Do you think they offer valuable skills, or are they just another formal qualification? And this goes not only to the master programs, but also to the PhD programs.
Who wants to take the question? I think everyone can has a different maybe aspect. Nacho, I
can give it a try. Yes,
Yep.
I can give it a try. Though I wouldn't like to generalize. It's because I don't have that much experience. Maybe I don't have that much experience from other probably masters programs or the ones that probably that you are now that this panel is part of, for example. In general, I'm more of the opinion that people should learn and do things in the field. I believe that people should start working on real projects and real problems as soon as possible, and really learn and acquire the various skills that are needed in the process. That I think to some degree is covered, like from there are specific probably courses in master's programs or even in PhD programs as well, where students have the opportunity to either work on projects that are currently running, projects funded by the industry, or real problems after all, and so students get the opportunity to really gain a lot from this experience. So I said in the beginning I wouldn't like to generalize. In general, I'm not that much in favor of just doing and attending classes just for getting the certification, as you said, or. So I think this should be a part. This real life experience should be a part of all types of such educational programs, etc. Even in my opinion, for undergrad cases as well, undergraduate cases, I don't think that we need to just in the beginning go through some theory and then just go for the practice after all. I think it can start the other way around. First, be exposed to the real problem, try to solve it, and learn what we need in the process. I think that's more real learning, in my opinion. The way I have experienced at least.
Can I add something to clarify this question? And I would like your opinion on how useful you think these programs are, because maybe it wasn't clear earlier.
Useful, you mean? I mean, to some degree, I mean, they are useful in the industry. I mean, they are useful, like there are certain, in general, for example, just one perspective that I can give here is as a potential employer, right? Because I'm interviewing people, for example, from coming from just these programs. Just to be fully sincere here, when I see somebody, it's not necessarily that when I see somebody coming from such a master's program, it's not really that I'm saying, wow, this is the person that I need necessarily, right? It's just that I will still need to talk to them. I will still need to make sure that they go through the formal process where they would have to take work on a take-home assignment, talk with the team, go through the entire process. After all, it's not really that the degree per se will show something on its own. Now there are certain people who actually end up really working hard in this type of programs and gaining what there is to gain there, the experience and exposure to these subjects, and come really ready, right? After all, there are other cases where just people have just followed attended the classes and just go there for just the certification, and I can tell that. I mean, at least I feel I can tell that. I feel that these people are not really ready after all. So it's not easy to give a generic answer here. I guess it depends on the person. If the person is really motivated, then I think they can really get a lot of things, because after all, they are exposed to all these very interesting subjects taught by very, very good people. So, but it can work either way, I guess. I don't know if that helps anymore. Just personal experience. I don't want to generalize. Just my thoughts on it.
Yeah,
I can add something.
That's okay.
Can
Sure,
I
go
add something?
Yes.
I think it depends also on the target, right? If you want to do if you want to follow the academic path, you have to do a PhD, right? There is no other way. But I think if I got correctly what Nassos somehow said, I totally agree that if you make a master just because you don't know what to do and you just lose, let's say, 2 years of your life, I think this is not the time well spent, right? So probably you should kind of think, why I'm doing this? What is the purpose? I mean, do I want to lose, let's say, 2 years of my life without, if I don't enjoy it, if I don't learn anything? I think time is really, really precious, right? It's the only resource that is limited. So I would really try to think in that direction. And I don't totally agree with Nassos about the practical skills versus the theoretical. I think you need both, actually, right? So even in data science, where we have all these tools and with all this democratization of AI and so on, if you don't know what these models are doing, and for this, I think you need the theory, and not only the theory of machine learning, deep learning, whatever, but also from databases, data structures, and so on, I think you are never going to reach a very good level of understanding and of performance, right? So for me, having this spherical knowledge and being exposed to many different subjects, which probably you cannot find if you just start in a company and focus on a particular subject, this is valuable somehow, and is part of the education.
May I add something?
Yes, Vasily.
So yeah, I agree with Nassos and Irini. When we were interviewing people either for internship positions or for postdoc positions at IBM, well, to be honest, of course, your CV matters. Okay, it's not a secret. But more than that, maybe, let's say we had an equal, two almost equally qualified people, and we had to make a decision. So what's more important, I think, is when you talk to these people, how much you understand that they are eager to work on this, to learn something new. So even in some cases, we hired an undergraduate student for the same task compared to another graduate student, for example, because we saw that this student had a lot of enthusiasm she really liked the task that we had at hand. So when I would say that there are a few factors. One is if you understand that someone is able, of course, to work on something, and then how eager those people are to explore something new and work in a new area. So it's not only the degree and the CV that counts.
Okay, so I think Yorgo, it is your turn to ask the question. You were first in the order.
Can you hear me?
Absolutely, yeah, go ahead.
The question is directed to those that started as an undergraduate student in Greece and then moved to another country to continue graduate studies. What were the good things about that, and what were the challenges, difficulties you faced with moving to another country? Was it easier than staying in Greece or tougher? If you were again 22, 23, would you do it again? Would you leave or would you stay in Greece?
Vasily.
Yes, I was waiting for someone else to answer because I did all my studies in Greece, University of Crete. I just did a postdoc in the US. So I don't know if someone else has a better experience in that, but I don't regret doing that, if that helps. Of course, it was very helpful to see a different environment. And I would say that Greek students don't have much to envy from students in the US. Of course, this is a generalization, of course, but what I mean is that we have seen some amazing Greek students and some amazing US students, and all from other countries, and it's not really a factor when making a decision. I see Maria has raised her hand. So perhaps she's more qualified to answer this question.
Does anyone else want to add something? I'm not sure whether Maria has a question or an answer to this question. So
I'm not sure if I can participate because I'm not a part of the panel and I only now joined, and I apologize for this. I wanted to comment, and I'm sure that all of you guys are equally qualified. So if I can very quickly, very briefly make a comment, although actually I'm looking forward to collaborate with more graduate students, and I'm eager to have them be present in my lab at University of Crete. The fact that when I was 22 years old, I went to US to continue my studies, and I stayed there for more than 12 years, for me it was a very big gift. And not only I never regret it, but if I had kids, and now that I have students, sometimes with a difficulty, I want them to leave and open the, and basically, travel and get to know other universities, other places, because it's not only, I think it's a very important experience. Of course, it depends where you go. And I think that, I am trying to advise them to go to top universities, because obviously in Greece, we have some excellent universities with that, they are doing extremely good work and research, etc. But the fact that the students get exposed at some point in their lives to other universities, other faculty, other teams, other ways of thinking, this cross-fertilization, it's so important. So, and because I feel a lifelong student, I still try to do the same, like every 3 months, every year, at least before COVID, because now, of course, COVID has changed so much things. But till recently, I have been trying to spend some months or at least some weeks in other places, because I so much value this experience. But again, this is my personal belief.
That was actually very accurate, Maria. Thank you. Ilya, do you want to take your turn?
Yes, of course. Hello all. Thank you for being here and providing us with all these useful insights from your personal experience. My question is, in your opinion, what are the key differences between conducting research in a company's R&D department and, for example, in an academic research center? And what different mindsets may be required?
Can I take this one? Perhaps it's a more recent memory. So I can start this discussion. I would say the differences in industry research institution like IBM Research, you don't have to worry about so many other things than the actual research. So that was, to me, the best part about research there. Where at Forth and University of Crete, you have to worry about many other things. So you may lose a little bit of focus, as it was mentioned before. But on the other hand, you also get to work with students, and you get to teach courses, so that, of course, there is a balance, and it depends on what you prefer. But when it comes to actual research, I would say that it was a more research-friendly environment in terms of staying focused on what you're doing. I don't know if the others agree on that.
I can offer a data point for Google research, at least, and contrasting it to university. I think pure foundational research at this point is feasible to do in a university. It's much less easy to do in industry. Okay, so even at Google research, the researchers had freedom to explore topics, but at the end of the day, they had to justify how these topics connected to the bottom line of the company. So there wasn't complete freedom in that sense. There was a little bit of some constraints that were put in place for that purpose. So for me, that was definitely the big differentiator between environments. I think it's becoming increasingly difficult to do this kind of pure research in industrial settings.
If I can add something, I think this is the beauty of it, though, because you need to tie it to something actually useful. At least this is my way of thinking. So yeah, in the industry, you have to prove what you are doing has some actual usage. And I think this helps the researcher not to lose its focus as well.
And a very small piece of advice to the students, I think that it is extremely important to try to do summer internships, or in general internships in the industry before you graduate. To me, in all my academic career, my internships at IBM as a graduate student when I was at Columbia University has been so valuable, I cannot tell you. So please do go to different research labs in industry and get the experience, get the networking, the exposure, etc. It can be extremely a big asset.
Totally agree. Stelio, would you like to take your turn, and then Yannis Ioannidis will ask, and I think at this point we will be done with questions due to time constraints.
Hello, thank you for being here. My question is, what are some tips and tricks you use to be able to stay up to date with the advances in your field, given that it can become overwhelming?
I can say something here. Just I think it's an easy one. It's just that it's a collaborative work after all, right? So we are using I'm personally using group cognition basically. So I'm working in a team. I'm trying to make the best of it in general. Just people are reading things. I'm reading things. I'm sharing with people. Communication is key here. Making sure that really you have this type of information like flowing towards all directions, and this I think helps a lot, because I really appreciate the perspectives and the views of my colleagues. So I like to always just see things from through their eyes as well, and I'm doing the same thing for them. So in a way, this helps filtering out noise, at least to some degree, because there is a lot of it.
I can add something. So I think this is a very good question and very relevant for both academia and industry somehow, because the domain that we work on is changing very fast. We haven't taught in our studies any of these subjects or some of these subjects, probably, right? So we have really to learn many things all the time. And in order to scale, I think we have really to rely on others, collaborators, students. Reviewing also helps in this direction, such discussions. So I think this is the beauty and also the challenge, right? So you have really to keep learning all the time. It's not that easy because it takes time, right? So we need to invest actually on this, staying up to date and relevant. But there is no other way, I think.
Okay, thank you.
I would add a very short answer. Also, it also helps me at least to attend conferences and workshops like that. And in addition to reviewing, which also helps a lot. And Google Scholar alerts also help me a lot because there are so many papers. So if you add some filters, you get some good updates.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yanni, you will be the last to ask the very best question.
The last, maybe the very best. I have the following question, trying to work on the research, innovation, and education triangle, if you want. 1 or 2 decades ago, anyway, when I was a young academic, people were saying, I mean, senior people who have been to industry, who have been to academia, were saying that the best, or one of the top 2 or 3 best ways to have technology transfer and take advanced research results into innovation, into products, into entrepreneurial activities, is for you, the creator, to move to industry and bring it next to the customers, bring it in the umbrella of a major corporation or a startup, but anyway, that you have to move and do it yourself. Based on your experience, all of you, I mean, you've been to both places and in different paths. Do you think this is still the case? Is this the best or one of the best ways, or now it's not as important and there are many more ways to do it?
I can start, even though I don't know if I'm qualified enough to answer your question, but anyway. So yeah, it definitely helped me a lot to move to industry and see what actual companies are paid to perform, and from blue sky research in our PhD that we didn't really know if anyone is using other than academics, people in our close environment. Moving to the industry and see what actual customers are paying to have a company like IBM or Google do. That really helped me a lot, and also see how these people work, how they think, how they do research. That was definitely helpful for me, and I would also second Maria's suggestion for students to do research, to do internships, and see even before their PhD finishes how their the industry is working.
Let me also add a very quick comment. That it really depends on the country. When I was doing my sabbatical, actually it's not exactly sabbatical, I was for a few years at KTH, I was impressed by the interaction that the Innovation Center had at the KTH University, the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, with faculty, students, visitors. Like, although I was just a visiting professor there, they did spend time and they allocated the resources at least to advise me in these issues for technology transfer and innovation. So in some countries, at least in Scandinavia countries, where people are very practical, I think that there is a tradition in trying to help into this domain. So So I think that it's not only industry. Some countries do have a strong culture in these aspects.
Just adding to this, just in my opinion, I think that that's not enough. I would agree with what Giannis mentioned, that it is very important. After all, for me, and just based on some things that I've seen, and I think it's important to actually, for having something to, for really actually succeeding into this technology transfer, after all, for actually making a successful company or a startup or a spin-off, or you need after all, you need a person, somebody who will really care about that, who will stay awake at nights, probably, you know, thinking and loving the thing, what they're doing, and just staying awake for the company, staying awake for the technology transfer, and that they really want to do it. So it's very important to have this person. This person would be the founder, would be like a very important person in the company, just, you know, holding a significant position. But you need that type of person. You cannot necessarily, you cannot really expect that you know, it would be easy for somebody, you know, just to take, other than the researcher, after all, right? If and that's where I'm going. Basically, the researcher, I believe, it's could be that kind of person. The researcher actually who has worked on this particular thing and has built something, after all, is the one I think is the most appropriate person to really take it and build it into a proper product, after all. Of course, with the right support around them, right? But it would be very hard to find somebody else to actually do it in the place of the researcher. So it would be very hard, in my opinion, to just say that, okay, we have the research institute or the academia just generating these results, and then somebody else. It would be much harder, at least in my opinion. Of course, these days there are a lot of like very skilled people in the industry as well, who could take something, you know, just ready, let's say, or somewhat ready, and build on it, but they would not necessarily have this love for it. They wouldn't necessarily care that much as the researcher would. I'm just assuming that the researcher cares, really. It's not something that as a side product of the research. But if they really care, I think they are the most appropriate people to just you know, take it and continue with that.
At this point, we need to interrupt, as they say, our normal program for some breaking news. We have the evaluation committee that has already decided for the two winners, but Maria Russo will tell us more about it, and we're looking forward to find out who the winners are.
So thank you. I'd like to first thank you all for the presentations, the wonderful presentations. I was very impressed by the level of the work and your presentation skills and the demonstrations that you had already prepared. I think the committee as well. I'd like to thank the committee, Professor Papadopouli, Professor Stefanidis, Dr. Dalamangas, and Dr. Efthymiou. So we voted based on the following criteria: effective communication, oral presentation, visual aids, creativity and innovation, and scientific method, technical challenge, and effort. And based on the scores, drum roll, everyone, the best paper presentation goes to Deep DB, Learn from Data, Not from Queries, by Katerina Xalorari. Congratulations, Katerina. I think it was very clear. The committee, this was the clear winner, but I must say that there was a battle. It was quite difficult for the second place, but the second place goes to, finally, creating locally aligned embeddings for robust schema linking to text to SQL translation by Yorgos Katsogiannis. Congratulations, Yorgos. Congratulations to everyone. Bravo to all the students, exactly.
We are really thrilled. Katerina, Yorgo, congratulations. Congratulations to everyone, actually. I was really impressed by the presentations and the quality of the work. That was fantastic. And we interrupted the panel, but it is time to close the discussion here. I feel guilty about it, but there is no good way to conclude a so interesting panel on a very hot topic. So hopefully we will have more to discuss next year, but I hope that what you heard during the panel will give you some food for thought. And I'm pretty sure that you can contact our panelists and ask more questions. Don't actually, I would say on their behalf, don't hesitate. Hearing from someone the right thing, the thing that will click for you can change your life, your career, your everything. So don't hesitate. Please bother them, bother us. Okay.
Patricia, I'm sorry for the interruption, but I think we should say Yorgos too. I know he wants to. Thank you very much. Thank you for voting. Oh my God. Okay, thank you that you found this work really interesting. It was really interesting to me and to all of them. And thank you so much for all coming to the workshop. We didn't know if we would actually manage to bring all of you, panels, keynote speaker. Thank you so much, Professor Ioannidis. Thank you everyone that actually talked in the panel from all over the world. Thank you so much. And we hope that we can have this workshop done in the next years. It was very interesting knowing that we can actually do a workshop on working really hard, even for a database course, even for a master's course. This is a really, really good sample of what it is to come if we choose this path. So thank you.
And please, all the organizing committee should turn on their cameras and all the participants, right? So we can thank the people behind the scenes and the evaluation committee and our session chairs and our presenters. Okay, and maybe someone can take the photo. Elias, are you the photographer?
I was trying previously, but print screen didn't work.
I can do it.
Okay.
Take a nice face, everyone. Okay.
Okay, perfect. So goodbye, everyone, and hopefully see you next year.
And as organizing committee, we would like especially to thank you, Ms. Kutrika, for all the guidance.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, it was a great pleasure.
Yeah. Have a good afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.